and welcome
Evening, everybody.
to another exciting show. And we've got Yorkshire Deb. Hello, Yorkshire Debbie.
Hello.
We've got John Hamer, world best-selling author. Here he is. He's underneath you.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
Actually, let's do the normal screenshot. Here we go. That's better. Now, we've got a couple of call-outs to do. We've got one person who's a bit Tom and Dick, who's quite Tom and Dick this week, and that's poor old Ron up near Darwin.
Oh.
And where they speak like this. They got a different accent to everywhere else, haven't they, in Darwin? And he's got a bit of the old, nasty old chest.
Oh.
But, cold, blummy. I mean, he's never smoked in his life, but when he was speaking to me last night, it was and I think there's something, it might be a lot of dust and pollen around at this time.
Yeah, there is. It's horrible.
But he's going to phone Miles tomorrow because Miles is usually busy. That's at Abbey Health Foods.
Yeah.
He's really busy on Mondays, but Tuesdays and Wednesdays are a little bit easier. So let's hope old Miles can fix him up with something. Unfortunately, he's got a long way to come down south from Darwin. So, but let's wish him better with. Shall we put the tinkly music on? If I can find it, tinkly music. It's here somewhere. Here it is. So it's. That's it, we and these healing. Didn't you?
You'll probably get it 10 minutes later.
You see, you've healed, and of course, we gave a call out to your car, who's much better this week. It stopped coughing and spluttering, and it had a bit of trouble with its battery. But do you know? Apparently, you was telling me, John, that your particular car was it? If you leave it unlocked, it drains.
It drains the battery. Apparently, it doesn't shut down all the electrical circuitry, so it leaves it all open. And I left it unlocked for 48 hours, and it killed the battery. So I went and bought a new battery, booked out 70 quid, and then I had the old one tested, and they said it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it.
Well, like you say, you've got a spare now.
So. Buy a solar thingy, Bob, and you can keep it charged all the time. Solar. That's what I do. Because I'm a tight-fisted like that. But we've got a call out also for Shannon.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to do a program. Unfortunately, what she's got in her book, we can't talk about on YouTube because it'll start the klaxons off and I'll be booted off again. Yeah. But she's finished her book, and thanks to Shannon, she's kindly done all the typesetting and all that for my dad's book, which is available on Kindle and also Amazon now. So you go into fothamallradio.co.uk and you'll be able to, and there's details below down the comments. So if you look at the comments below here, there's all the details. But also you'll find Shannon's website. Where is it now?
I was just looking, I can't find it.
Oh, here it is. Here it is.
There we go.
There we go. And I won't read it out. You can see it here. Well, hang on, I can read it out. It's wi-fi-refugee.com. Okay. And it's, I believe her book is, do you remember we can say the title, John? It's available on Amazon, isn't it?
Yeah, it's called Wi-Fi Refugee, and it's on Amazon.com, soon to be on Amazon.co.uk. It may already be, but I can highly recommend it. Having not proofread it, but I wrote a foreword to it, so I obviously had to read the damn thing. I said the damn thing. That's very unkind. It's an absolutely brilliant book, and it's a must read for anyone who wants to understand, what Shannon and many millions of other people are going through right now. And and also I would also add to that, Chris's dad's book is one of the most fantastic books I've ever read in my life. So I would urge anyone who is ever at all interested in the topic of the Second World War and somebody's personal experiences, what they actually went through, having been on the front line for about 5 years.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend it. It's a wonderful piece of social history, and it deserves to be read widely and kept safe for posterity long after we are all gone. By the way, this is a valuable social document, and it really needs, and it's definitely worth a read.
Brilliant.
So yeah, that's my contribution to that.
Thank you very much, John. That is very moving. And even though on the website it hasn't mentioned it yet, it's available on Kindle and Amazon. Okay, so you can get my dad's book, My World War II, on Kindle and Amazon. Thanks to John and Shannon, who've really put a lot of hard work in. And of course, you've got your book, John, which is Welcome to the Masquerade. You mustn't forget that. And It's between you and Shannon, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's available on Kindle and Amazon. And I'm sure it's a wonderful book. And the feedback I get on the comments section and on emails, everybody without exception says they're absolutely wonderful books. And I'm plowing through. I'm a very, very slow reader behind the curtain. And it's absolutely.
You've been reading about a year now, Chris, I think.
Yeah, I do take a lot of time. What I learned about tally sticks.
And he's only on page 10, folks.
That's right. As far as that, no, page 9 is brilliant.
Oh, sorry. Oh, okay.
But I'm going to interview Shannon, but unfortunately, it can't be on YouTube. So we're going to work it out. It'll either be on the future radio station, it probably will be, and the Backwater, which is BitChute. The link is below here, where you could actually see my BitChute channel, which gets, I think, 3 people and a bloke and his dog, isn't there? I think he looks at BitChute. I don't know what it is about BitChute. People don't look at BitChute. Why? It's really weird. And I mean, I was saying, like, people like Vinny Eastwood. Well, Vinny Eastwood had more viewers on his YouTube channel before he was taken down in New Zealand than I think New Zealand television had. Yeah. And he's got about 200 or 300 on BitChute. Why? You know? But you can see stuff. We called it the Naughty Show. You can see shows on my BitChute channel that you can't see on here. So there we go. Now, thank you very much, everybody. Now, Deb is going to do the comments tonight. Yes. Because she's now what you call, you're a something or other member, aren't you?
I'm now a StreamYard member on your channel. So yes.
See, and I might make John one as well. What about that?
I'm in control.
Do you want to be a member? You'll be a member or something. So you can
member. Oh.
Yes.
Of what? As long as it's not the Freemasons or something like that.
No.
You do need a funny handshake before you come on, but apart from that,
the trouser leg up.
Oh, trouser leg up, yeah. So that's all right. But talk about trouser leg.
Second-hand apron.
Second-hand apron. Talking about Fogham Hall security, people are asking about it. We've got the boys looking at Fogham Hall security, and it's a 4-legged variety. There's 2 dogs that are now fans of this show, and one's called Ronnie, and the other one's called Reggie. And Reggie is owned by his town, or I should say, he's friends with Town Crier, and Reggie is Rosanna's and Lauren's dog. So I think they're keen fans. So there we go. So on with the show, Monkey Business. Now it's not about anything that's poxy, and
no, we don't do poxy.
We don't do poxy. And what it's about tonight is evolution. And it's something I've always I've used to accept what was told until a few years ago, and I'm now skeptical. So over to you. I don't know, do you want any comments, Deb? You okay?
I've just popped them on the screen to let everybody know we know they're here.
Oh, isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Then we can read out. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Whoa, you know, blimey, I've got a lot in comments tonight, haven't we?
We have. We've got a lot in the chat.
Yeah. What's this, Johnny? Adam Adamant is on there. The man that lived for 1,000 years.
Ancient Ruby says, if I fart, can I be a member?
Certainly. You're a big stink where you come from, aren't you? Yeah. Oh, look what she said about my dad's book. Bless her.
Yeah.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, Agent Ruby. And remember, you don't have to get it from me now. You can get it from Amazon. It's easier. It's a bit cheaper by Amazon. So there we go. You'll
Yes.
save as
Yeah,
much as
I mean,
5 pence.
I would, at the risk of repeating myself, I would urge anyone to get it because it's just such an incredible story. I mean, I've never read it. I mean, it's a true story. Don't get me wrong. It's not a novel. It is Chris's dad, David, his experiences during World War II, and it's just utterly amazing. And it really doesn't pull any punches either. Not like all the sanitized crap that we hear, from the media and everything. So it's definitely worth a read.
Yeah.
And it deserves a place in anybody's bookshelf.
Much appreciated. Thank you. And we're hoping to actually talk more about our books and that on the future radio show. And I'm going to go for a meeting with Miles tomorrow. He doesn't know it yet. And a couple of other people. And we're going to discuss the radio show, put it together. So, because we're going to start from basically nothing on there. So I do hope, and it's going to be on Thursdays, and I do hope a lot of our people here. The book's called My World War II, Yorkshire Rose, and you can get it in Canada as well from Amazon. There we go. And David J. Powis, Powis. That is the English spelling and not the Welsh spelling, because I'm English, not Welsh. So anyway, shall we say we go on to about evolution tonight? Now, it's something that's a hot potato, and I was speaking to a lady called Sue. Hello, Sue. Yesterday, and she's a Christian. I'm not religious, but she's religious, and I respect everybody's beliefs and faiths because you can learn something from all the time. And I'm not adamant with beliefs and things like that. And I said this will be a particular interest because what John's got to say is well researched, and I'm going to learn something tonight, and I think everybody will. So over to you, John.
Thank you, Chris. It's a very nice introduction. Yeah, I mean, up until maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, just like everyone else, I just accepted what the mainstream told us, that, we came from, we evolved from pond slime through various different stages of different kinds of animals, firstly through non-vertebrates and then up through progressing through the different stages until we reached apes, and then all of a sudden we kind of mutated into this creature which is known as Homo sapiens, human beings. But I actually believe now, having researched it thoroughly, as Chris said, that there is an agenda. I'm sure you're all absolutely shocked to hear that, of course, but no, there definitely is an agenda to make us believe that things that aren't true are true because it suits their program of disinformation, shall we say. I actually believe, and anyone who's ever been to one of my talks will probably maybe have heard me say this before, but I believe there are 3 theories that prop up the current scientific paradigm. The one that we're not even going to touch at all because we've done it in another program. 2 that we're not going to touch at all because this is about evolution, which is one of them. The other 2 are the Big Bang Theory and the globe Earth. And of course, the evolutionary theory is what we're talking about tonight. And again, the clues in that name, the evolutionary theory, as in the Big Bang Theory, neither of these are proven, even though they are taught in all educational establishments as though they are absolutely incontrovertible facts. And yet they still have this label of theory attached to them. And all these 3 things that I've just mentioned are all linked together, and I believe that together they all form the basis of the biggest lie that we've ever been told. And that is a really bold statement, I know, but let's just concentrate on one of those elements tonight, and that's evolution. Because I believe that if the Big Bang really did happen, which it absolutely didn't, and I prove this quite conclusively in the falsification of science, then leading on from that, evolution's almost a given, because it follows that if the universe itself developed in that manner, then of course the next logical step in this wider process is the actual evolution of living species. But personally, as I say, I don't believe either theory, and they are only theories. So there we go. Now, the Western education system actually teaches children not to think, okay, despite what they tell us, and to just blindly accept anything that the establishment tells them is fact. And any student who uses any kind of logic and solid scientific evidence to question any of these, any of science's proclaimed givens, including the theory of evolution, is often or always ridiculed and insulted into submission. And those students who submit to the will of these educators in this matter, almost all of them that is, then become unthinking robots, programmed not to question any of the dogma, but just to merely accept anything and everything they're taught as an undeniable fact. And I used to come into conflict with teachers over this, because I never used to accept anything at face value. And I guess that's how I ended up being the reprobate that I am, because I was always in trouble for asking questions, awkward questions, for demanding proof of certain things. And I guess it's always just been in my nature. So it was kind of a natural progression to become, you know, an investigator and a researcher into the truth, rather than just accepting what we're told. And believe me, evolution is just that. It is a case of, oh, they taught us that at school. Science absolutely believes in this, so therefore it must be true. Well, I guess most of you out there in listener land know that that's not the case. But whether you believe in evolution or not, that's entirely up to you. But I'm just going to present the case against tonight. It's the assumption's always made that if you don't believe in evolution, then you must be some kind of fundamental Christian, believing in divine creation, and this is always portrayed as the only viable alternative. And that is exactly the Hegelian dialectic model: thesis, antithesis, synthesis. But it's abject nonsense, of course. And as Chris said, I'm not a religious person. I don't follow any other organized religion at all. But I am a spiritual person, and I believe that it's absolutely certain that there was or is a creator of some kind, although I confess to not having any real idea as to what form that creator would take. By the way, Chris, if you want to chip in and take questions, or, you know, go into chat, just stop me at any time.
Okay. Well, before
yes, I will. Yeah.
Shall I we go into chat? And
yeah, sure.
I mean, Deb's highlighted a really good one here, and this is Dragon Noir.
Noir.
Noir. See, better education than me. I was always sleeping when I was looking out the window during the English lessons. And evolution cannot explain how the first living cell came into existence. Not only would the double helix had to form, it would need to have randomly programmed itself. Spot right.
Excellent point. Excellent point.
Yeah. Brilliant point. Thanks, Deb, for finding that out. That you highlighted. And there's an interesting one here, which is VXRHSV. You do have a religion, you believe it. It's called science. No.
Fair point.
Yes, good point, because science has brought us marvelous things like this internet, but it doesn't explain spiritual things.
No.
It explains very little, actually. Science is just a bloody, as I can see, but that's a whole other subject. Yeah. Yes. Connected, but obviously it's.
Well, that's it. I mean, like yourself, John, I'm not religious, but I do believe in karma, very much so. I believe that there is something that is beyond our, and I think if you do good, good comes back, and if you do bad, bad comes back.
Yeah.
And I think that you know, it's but again, I don't step on the shoes of anybody that's religious. I don't laugh at them, because at the end of the day,
No.
I could be wrong. They could be right. Who knows? But
That's their
it's like
choice.
everything. You look at when you
honestly, I have more respect for people who blindly follow religion than people who blindly follow science, because science is made up. Okay, you might argue that it is made up, but at least these people are genuine in their beliefs, and a lot of scientists are definitely not genuine. They are propagators of information deliberately. Okay.
Well, it always annoys me when you see the BBC, mass media, when you get, and I know I'm repeating myself now, Professor Plonker with his blow tie, Professor Smug Arsehole, and they do it every time. And they showed you many years ago, there's a documentary where they went to America, where there was some very religious people. I think it must have been in the Bible Belt, where they got this museum where they said dinosaurs don't exist, etc., etc. And there's BBC smug Mr. Bowtie, and all that sort of crap. Well, how dare they? Because those people had a right to give their point of view.
Wasn't that Mr. Smug BBC type? Wasn't that Richard Dawkins? Because I remember seeing a program with him where he toured the Deep South and the Bible Belt, and he absolutely ridiculed them, and I was disgusted.
Well, that's right.
I was disgusted with what he said. It was just insulting.
Well, when we were children, we believed in things that, I used to believe in Santa Claus, and we probably all did. But then I found out that Santa Claus may not exist and things like that. But to me, to ridicule,
I know,
but to ridicule somebody because of their belief. It's like no, I better not go there. I was going to. That to me is to do with something else, which is hypnotized from hypnotism, but we won't go into hypnotism if you get what I mean. But the thing is that I always think that's a sign of ignorance when you ridicule somebody and say they're stupid, they're an idiot for challenging something that science was believing. Look at Well, look at
Dawkins does it all the time, Chris. He uses what's called the straw man argument. He belittles people to make a point. Yeah.
Well, that's quite right.
Even more so, Dragon Noir. Even more so, I think. But yeah, it's a good.
Every bit of trouble. Closed-minded. Let's face it. Let's look at scurvy. They knew the cure for scurvy for 200 years. Yet people that came up with the cure, which was to eat limes and vitamin C and things like that, they laughed at all that. And it's very strange that it was 200 years before they adopted it. So there's something odd that
was not very strange. They're just protecting their own agenda and their own revenue streams, aren't they? That's why they it's all about money and prestige and power, and anything goes against what they regard as being the norm is just shouted down because there are so many vested interests, and that's always been the case, even more so today than before. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Anyway, shall I crack on? Because there's a fair bit to cover.
Certainly. Well, we've got about 3 here to read. What do you think?
Go on then. All right.
What's this one? I think you better read this one out, Deb, was it?
Yorkshire Rose is saying, I agree. I stopped believing in evolution when I studied mitochondria and chloroplasts. I don't know anything about that, so I can't comment. And then Paul's saying, no intermediate fossils found to show changes over time for any species.
Correct.
And Ancient Ruby's agreeing with you, saying, manipulated it all and lied, covered up true history, and we are doing it again as they do every 100 years or so. Yet slowly, it is happening.
Yeah.
So,
anyway, far away, John. And so we're going to the next stage now. And this is going to be absolutely fascinating. So fire away.
All right. Right. Yeah. So just getting back onto point again. I need to clarify what I mean by evolution. And to do that, I need to make the distinction between something called microevolution and macroevolution. Microevolution is the state that species do change, but they don't change into other species. They adapt to their surroundings as defense mechanisms. So, for example, there's a species of moth, and this is just one example picked from thousands. There's a species of moth called a peppered moth, which over many, many years evolved to have the patterns on its wings that it has. And the reason it did that was because that is it lives on particular trees, and the wing patterns look exactly like the bark on the trees that it lives on. Now, that's quite understandable, and I actually accept that as a theory, because what tends to happen is that the mutations happen. We all know that genetic mutations happen from time to time, and obviously any moth that evolved this particular pattern on its wings was more likely to survive because it was camouflaged. So then it would stand more chance of surviving than others of its species that didn't have that pattern, and then it was able to pass those genes on to it, more likely to pass its genes on to its relatives, and so to its descendants. And so that process continues on, and eventually, you know, it kind of perfects that process, and thereby ensuring that species is much better protected than it was prior to that, when its wing patterns didn't reflect the background of the environment in which it lives. So that's microevolution, the tiny changes that are beneficial to any particular species. But the opposite of that is macroevolution, which states that, you know, this is the main thrust of evolution, of course, that species change from one into another. Well, now even Darwin said at one point, and I've got a quotation to that effect, I haven't got it to hand, but he actually said there is not a single record of any species changing into another. And when you think about that, I mean, changing from one species into another, how does that work? Any mutation that survives has to be beneficial. Now, how can changing from one species into another be beneficial? Because you'd have hundreds, thousands, millions of fossils of part-way species. How does, for example, an ape turn into a man? You know, it just doesn't make sense. You know, one day an ape gives birth and it's a human being. I mean, come on, that's just ludicrous. And how do things like organs develop? How does an eye evolve? You know, what use is a partial eye to anything? It just doesn't make sense. It's almost as though they want us to believe that the beginning of the evolution of an eye has set in motion a chain of events that 1 million or 10 million generations later will result in a perfectly formed eye. None of it makes any sense when you look at it in those terms, and that's what kind of turned me on to evolution being nonsense, thinking about that. And actually, as crazy as it may seem, I first read that in a pamphlet that came through the door from the Jehovah's Witnesses, and you know, I thought, oh, nonsense, rubbish. And then eventually I read it and I reread it and I thought, yeah, that makes sense. So I started looking into it. And, you know, the whole thing is just nonsense. I mean, the theory of evolution is exactly that. It's a theory, and a very, very tenuous one. There's an absolute mountain of evidence to contradict it, and also to suggest that Darwin was just part of this overall conspiracy. I mean, it was a high-ranking Freemason for a start, and you know, it was part of that conspiracy that continues to this day. And the rumor goes, I mean, I have nothing to back this up, but I've heard rumors, I've seen people write this, that he actually confessed in anguish in his last days to the hoax that he was instrumental in inflicting on us all. And indeed, some of his quoted statements do tend to provide circumstantial evidence of that. But of course, daring to question the great religion of evolution, because that's what it is, obviously, is now regarded by society as either the actions of a religious zealot or an imbecile. I mean, this is obviously the power of persistent propaganda and lies, isn't it? But it's absolutely clear that someone said in chat that the fossil records do not support the theory of evolution, despite what the evolutionists tell us. Yeah, so there are no missing links at all. This is always the big thing with evolutionists. Oh well, when we find the missing link, we'll be able to absolutely prove it. There are no missing links. There are no transitional species. Even Darwin admitted that. The reason he said that they'd not been able to find any transitional species was because in his lifetime this was a new theory, and he said there'd not been enough time elapsed for people to find the relevant fossils. But even 150 years after his death, we still have no missing links. We still have no transitional species. No. It's all utter garbage. And as I say, it's absolutely, utterly ridiculous, in my view, to believe that one species can become another through a process of evolution. It just doesn't make any sense at all.
A comment here from Dragon Noir. Yeah. So it says there are some transitional fossils such as Picala, primitive fish, Arendaspia, early jawless armoured fish, but there are not enough transitional fossils to support the evolution theory. No, well, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm sure if anybody looks hard enough, there are things that fit that bill. But that if the whole of the animal and plant kingdoms have been subjected to evolution over billions of years, there would be, trust me, there would be absolutely, millions and millions of fossils of transitional species. There just aren't. There is no evidence whatsoever. I mean, even evolutionists admit that they're puzzled by this. Yeah. But just to go back to, the evolution of individual organs. I mean, what use would a partially evolved kidney would be? I mean, it certainly couldn't just develop overnight. You couldn't have an organism that didn't have kidneys and then suddenly gave birth to one that did. Yeah. So what would you have? Like a beginning of a kidney? And if that was even possible, the whole concept is absolutely ridiculous. How could it possibly know that in several generations that would turn into a useful organ such as a kidney or a wing or an eye? It's self-contradictory. It's self-contradictory. Yeah. Evolution is meant to consist of beneficial changes, not changes which actually hinder an animal. And if those partial new creatures, if they even existed, which of course they don't, mated with a non-partially evolved member of its species, how would that work? Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah. So yeah, well, actually, I just found the quote from Darwin. It's from My Life and Letters, Volume 1, and he said, "Not one change of species into another is on record. We cannot prove that a single species has ever changed into another." Now, there was a guy called Richard Milton, who was an ardent evolutionist until he began to, properly, scientifically investigate the myths and legends of evolution in any kind of depth. And after 20 years of studying and writing about evolution, he realized that there were so many anomalies. So he decided to put every classic proof of evolution to the test. And the results left him stunned at first. I mean, he found that the theory couldn't even stand up to even rudimentary investigative journalism, let alone really serious stuff. And eventually he published a book which was called The Facts of Life, Shattering the Myths of Darwinism. But what happened next shocked him deeply. And again, going back to the person who we mentioned before, a certain Mr. Dawkins, here's the quote from Richard Milton. And he said, and I quote, "I experienced the witch hunting activity of the Darwinist police at first hand. It was deeply disappointing to find myself being described by the prominent Oxford zoologist Richard Dawkins as loony, stupid, and in need of psychiatric help
in response to purely scientific investigation and reporting. So, you know, in fact, Darwin and his hangers-on, his followers, in today's ultra PC world would have been condemned as vile racists and eugenicists who believe that black and brown people were much closer to their alleged ancestral ape man than whites, which is absolutely fact. They did. You know, they actually investigated as to whether black people were the missing link between apes and humans. I mean, can you imagine that today? I mean, you know, but that was Darwin and his followers for you. Yeah.
Also, another strange thing. Oh, we've got the grunting on the line, haven't we? We've got the grill on the line. The other strange thing is that humans are apparently the only animals, and I don't think we are animals as such, but shall we say the only beings that squint in broad daylight. Apes don't.
Really?
Which is strange. We're the only ones that squint in sunlight. And the idea that an ape suddenly became quite intelligent and walked out on the great African savannas, is complete nonsense, because it had been a tasty meal for whatever was around at that time. So that is bonkers. And you've got a few more there, Deb. I've noticed Yorkshire Rose has mentioned something quite interesting, which I didn't know anything about this.
Yeah, she's explaining mitochondria and chloroplasts are cell organelles and are very complex structures. I couldn't believe that the complexity of just a cell could just evolve. So that's that one.
Yes.
And there's a question from Dragon Noir. John, how do you explain chimps and bonobos share approximately 99.5% the same genes?
Right. Well, I can't, but you know, other than the fact that they are separate species, you know, believe it or not, that humans and bananas share 98% the same genes as well.
I'm a banana.
I'm a cannibal.
Banana. Yeah.
Your
great-grandfather was a banana.
Yeah.
According to evolutionary theory. No, seriously, you know, the differences between all living species is tiny.
Yeah. There's a comment from Sebastian Moran. I wonder who funded Darwin, Marx, and Freud. I mean Freud.
Yes.
Sebastian.
Well, I'll tell you who funded them. It was Freemasonry.
Right.
Absolutely Freemasonry, because I mean, I've got some very interesting quotes here, which kind of, you know, it's appropriate to actually go to those right now. Just let me dig them out. It's part of my presentation that I do, my stand-up talk. Okay, yeah, this. Here we go. Right. All right. This is something that's part of my my PowerPoint presentation that I do in my stand-up talks. Now, the 33rd degree Supreme Council of Freemasonry in Paris actually revealed in its minutes that it promoted evolution as a science. Well, they themselves actually scoffed at the idea. Now, the minutes actually read as follows. Okay, and I quote here. This is a quote from The Fundamental Philosophy of Atheistic Freemasonry. And it goes, and I quote, "It is with this object in view that we are constantly arousing a blind confidence in these theories. The intellectuals, without any logical verification, will put into effect all the information available from science, which our agents have cunningly pieced together for the purpose of educating their minds in the direction we want. Do not suppose for a minute that these are empty words. Think carefully of the successors we arranged for Darwinism." How's about that thing? And also, from New Age magazine, March 1922, so just over 100 years ago, "The kingdom of atheistic Freemasonry will be established by the theory of evolution and the development of man himself. The false scientific ideology of evolution is a deception set in the 33rd degree atheistic Freemasonic lodges. Freemasons openly admit that they will use the scientists and media, which are under their control, to present this deception as scientific fact, which even they find funny. Stunned silence.
That is incredible. Oh, hello, we got the monster in the back. Actually, that's Ronnie and Reggie, the two dogs looking in, you know. They prick their ears up there. But seriously, that is stunned silence. That is quite amazing because but you know, back to Dawkins, you notice that the BBC scoffed. He was on everything, you know, and that smug attitude, the smugness is what gets me. And he actually did say,
a-hole. He really is.
I am right and everybody else is wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. He actually said that on air.
Yeah, but I mean, one thing I will say about Dawkins, and it's not a positive thing, by the way, but he will never debate with non-evolutionists, never. And it's not because he feels it's beneath him, it's because he knows that there will be putting things forward that he cannot answer. I'm absolutely convinced of that.
Yeah.
It's the same, in much the same way that Nissen, that American actor, scientist, you know, and he's one of the opponents of the globe, he will not debate flat earthers because he's get absolutely destroyed.
Yeah. Yeah. When you see these people, I mean, it's like Penn and Teller. I find them rather smug as well. I find they get on my flagging nerves. And again, why can't they keep an open mind?
Oh yeah.
I mean, if Dawkins went in and said, "Look, you know, I don't believe it,"
well, they're just
and just spoke and was polite to people and say, "Well, okay, you know, we agree to disagree," or anything like that. That bloody smugness gets right up my ooter, and to me, it's childish. He hasn't grown up because it's mature to keep open-minded. However ridiculous somebody says something about something, you know, you may laugh at it. I mean, there's certain things I used to laugh at, and now I look back and think, well, that person was right. I mean, a perfect example, I know I'm going slightly off topic, was that woman in the 60s who tried to clean up television, and I used to laugh my head off. Whitehouse. I thought she was a nutter.
Yeah, but she was right.
But she was right. Yeah, she was 100% spot on. And what she predicted,
absolutely
right? She was
a very brave lady, actually.
Yeah. Yes. And did you see that BBC play they did of her, where they actually ragged her down to the lowest? That was
No.
Yeah, it was really below the belt.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, it's pretty awful. But we're going off topic there. But oh, hang on a minute. We got one here. We got a beautiful statement here. If I put this on here. So, yes, I 100% agree.
Yep, I can't watch that man.
Like, he gets right, especially when he talks about the war. Yeah. He's so bloody smug. And all they do, they read up all the books that the generals wrote and the top brass wrote, who were probably 30 miles behind them.
In an office.
That's right. But back to Darwinism, he married his first cousin. And there's a lot of genetic mutations in his family. I mean, imagine marrying your first cousin.
Well, it's legal, isn't it? But I can't understand why, because it's the closest.
Well, it's because it's one of the elite families, and that's what they do. I mean, you know, the other connection between Darwin and another family, that is the Huxley family. Well, the guy who really heavily promoted Charles Darwin and his theory, I mean, it wasn't actually his theory anyway. It was his grandfather Erasmus's, and he just took it and modified it. But anyway, Darwin's theory was heavily promoted by a guy called Thomas Henry Huxley, who became known as Darwin's bulldog, because he was a bit of a Rottweiler about it, and he used to really force, a bit like Dawkins, used to ridicule people who tried to argue against it. And but the point I'm making is that Thomas Henry Huxley was the grandfather of somebody called Aldous Huxley, and also Julian Huxley, who was one of the founders of UNESCO. Yep. So it's all connected at the top. Everything's all connected. Everything. You keep using this phrase, and every time I speak, but everything is it's like a 10 million or a 10 billion piece jigsaw puzzle. Every piece connects into another. And the trick that they use to deceive us is that they try and keep all those pieces as random, coincidental events and not intrinsically connected. And in doing so, they put so many people off the track, because the key to understanding the bigger picture about everything that's going on in the world is to make those connections, is to connect all those dots, and to make that jigsaw puzzle picture appear. Because once that jigsaw puzzle picture begins to appear, as you put all the pieces in place, it enables you to put more and more pieces into place, because everything is connected, just like a huge jigsaw puzzle. So yeah. I've got a great quote here, if I may. This is from a molecular biologist who I spoke to, who did not want to be named. Okay, so I'll just call him Sam. All right. And he said, to be a molecular biologist requires one to hold on to two contradictory insanities at all times. One, it would be insane to believe in evolution when you can see the truth for yourself. Two, it would be insane to admit you don't believe in evolution. All government work, research grants, papers, big college lectures, everything would stop. I'd be out of a job and relegated to the outer fringes where I couldn't earn a decent living. The work that I do in genetic research is honourable, but in the meantime, we have to live with that elephant in the living room. Intelligent design is that elephant in the living room. It moves around, takes up an enormous amount of space, loudly trumpets, bumps into us, knocks things over, eats a ton of hay, and smells like an elephant. And yet we have to swear it isn't there.
That's right. Actually, Sebastian Ryan is quite an interesting one, and it said here, he asked, was it Carl Jung? What's your views on Carl Jung?
My views on Carl Jung.
Yeah.
Well, it was just like just like everyone of that ilk, Freud and Edward Bernays. They're just shills. They are just useful idiots who are used to promote an agenda that is unreal.
Yeah.
Psychiatry is a complete and utter abomination. You know, it's not a valid science at all. It's just used to promote the agenda, to suppress people. You know, and to create imaginary illnesses. Anybody who doesn't fit into what they deem as being normal is analysed psychiatrically, and if they're seen to be not normal, who decides what normal is? You know, I don't really know. Well, I do really know, and it certainly isn't the likes of you and I. You know, and it's a great way of preventing people from moving outside, you know, the box of reality, because if you don't fit into that box of reality, you belong in a in an asylum. That's what psychiatry is all about.
In mental health for 22 years, and
yeah,
I'd say 50% of the people that I dealt with weren't mentally ill. I would say that they heard voices, and they were psychic more than anything.
Demons.
Not necessarily. No, I just think that they were channeling something when they were sat talking.
No, I don't mean they were demons. I mean they heard they were listening to demons and answering.
Right, I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, they were channeling something we would call mediumship, but because it had happened when they were younger, and they'd been taken to a psychiatrist and they'd been put in an institution, then they became in with the rest of them who were, you know.
Yeah.
I agree with you there, because with psychiatrists, I mean, I'm sort of lightening this up a bit. About 20, 30 years ago, I was actually watching, again, this is when I had a television, I was watching the BBC documentary where these smug psychiatrists were going around how they were treating people to face their demons and all this, that and the other. And they then showed a bloke walking down the road with a pair of trousers on. They're about 4 inches above the ankle. Who was it now? There's an actor that was that said, if you want to see if someone's a loony, they always wear trousers that are either 4 inches too high from their ankle or 4 inches too low. I think it was Alec Guinness that said that. And immediately I said, psychiatrist. And it was a bloody psychiatrist. And I've come to the conclusion that most psychiatrists, especially NHS ones, need a psychiatrist. And the old saying, anyone that sees a psychiatrist needs their head tested, is 100% correct, isn't it, really? But
excuse me a minute. I'll be back in about literally 1 minute. Just talk amongst yourselves, okay?
Okie dokie.
I've come across a very bizarre psychiatrist, to be honest.
I'll tell you who we could have as a guest on. I mean, I've actually met some weird psychiatrists. I don't mind telling you, and I've seen them on television. But we can have a guest as an American chap whose name escapes me. I'm sure someone in chat. What's his name now? And Mark Windows interviewed him few months back, and this chap worked for the American Prison Service, and he said the same as you, Deb, that a lot of the people weren't insane who were schizophrenic. They were literally getting communication, because our brain, I believe, is like a radio receiver.
Yeah.
Is receiving
the right frequency is something else.
Yeah, because where do we get ideas from?
Yeah.
Where we get feelings from and things. Oh, bless you, Fiona. Thank you so much. Whoops. Oh, hang on, it's gone.
No, it's maybe I put it on.
Yeah, you switched it on. I switched it again. I switched it. Sorry, I should. Yeah, Jerry Mawinski, and also Sebastian said it as well.
Yes.
I'd like to know. And Mark Windows did say to me, if I mention his name, it can come on. I've got a feeling though, Mark, that Jerry Mawinski, he might be for the radio show and may not be for YouTube. I don't know whether he's been booted off of YouTube or not, because you've got to be so careful nowadays, you know.
He's made a good comment. Most mental illness seems to be more about unhealed emotional injury rather than illness. Psychiatry like witchfinder with invented labels. I'd agree with that. We
could do a program, Deb, about psychiatry, I think.
Yeah.
It really would be a cracking show. And also, I'll tell you something that irritates me. And the trouble is, I get a bit carried away with this. I say, hey, we try and keep families together. No, if someone's a pain in the arse in your family, get away from them.
Yeah.
And when I got away from my sister, it's the best I've ever felt.
Yeah.
Bit straight with you. If I'd have kept in with my sister, I think I would have been in a padded cell by now.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that we've all got relatives. You can choose your friends, but you can't choose your relatives. And all of my relatives, the good ones, are all dead now. And what's left? Well, quite honestly, I will give you. Let's put it this way. If they were on fire in the curl, I wouldn't piss over and put the fire out. Sorry to sound a bit crude. Oh, he's back. Hello.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Joe's wanting to know where we come from.
It's not my that's not my brief to answer that question. You know, I honestly don't know. All I do know is that we don't come from where they tell us they come from.
Yeah,
that's right. But
I believe that we were created, but I don't necessarily understand how or why. You know, what was the creator? Was it the religious god, or was it some other entity that we can't conceive? I honestly don't know the answer. And to be honest, as I say, you know, it's not my prerogative to answer that. You know, I just don't know. But I do know that what they tell us is absolutely not correct. That's all I can say. So,
science is an answer for everything and an answer for nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and they've always got to have an answer for it.
Yeah, but this is the problem. This is the problem. Scientists always have to fill in the knowledge gap by making something up. You know, it's almost like they can't bring themselves to say, well, I don't know. You know, but you know, I absolutely don't know, and I don't think anyone else does for sure. I mean, it's just not possible to know, is it? It's not within our remit to know that.
That's true.
Well,
I suspect we will find out one day.
Yeah.
Probably when we've departed this life, it may become apparent. I don't know. You know, I just don't.
Well, archaeologists, when they don't know what an object is, they always say it's ceremonial. If a doctor doesn't know why you're ill, they'll say it's genetic. And when a scientist... Autoimmune, that's another one. And if a scientist doesn't know the answer, they'll just fill it in with bullshit, won't they?
Yeah.
Scientific. Well, of course, you know. So Alfred Watsit wrote a paper in 1903 about this, and of course it's well proven, you know. And yes, the other one is the science is settled.
The science is settled.
That's
Don't
all
worry
right.
about it. The
Hang on,
science
hang
is
on.
settled. Yes. Yeah.
Do you mind if I
Some
do it
things we're
correctly?
not meant to understand. You know.
Yeah, remember, got a girl hold the
Yeah,
lapel.
sorry.
Wasn't it? Science, theatrical pause, is settled. The sort of smug nose. Yeah. Actually, this would have been good for our bullshit show last week, wouldn't it? You
Yeah,
know?
well, yeah. Anyway, John, carry on.
Yeah, I'll carry on because I've got lots more stuff to talk about. But again, interrupt me after a while. Don't let me just ramble on forever. Okay, so I mean, evolutionists state totally confidently, as we've just been saying, that birds, or almost birds, whatever, developed hollow bones over a time span of several million years to reduce weight in order to facilitate their flight. Well, again, this comes back to what I mentioned earlier. How could a bird possibly pass along this, excuse me, obviously long-term plan down millions of generations in order to keep the lighter bone plan progressing? The evolutionary concept of growing a wing and adapting bones to become hollow to enable a function which would become active only several million generations later, in fact, violates and doesn't come close to supporting the foundation of evolutionary theory. And what about the symbiotic relationship between an orchid that has a 4-inch tube, which needs an insect with a 4-inch nose to pollinate it? The mutations needed for that to happen cannot possibly take a long time to synchronize because they must do so immediately, or one or both species will fail. If the flower mutates to a 5-inch tube first, the fly can't reach the nectar and stops visiting it. If the insect mutates to a 5-inch nose first, the pollen's not deposited on him and the flower fails. Neither species can wait around for accidental mutations of just the right sort. They've got to evolve together. And that is just so unlikely that it absolutely on its own, that to me shows up the theory of evolution as being utter bollocks. And that's also the case for many, many other totally impossible symbiotic relationships. Sharks are often stranded on beaches where they die a very unpleasant, lingering death by suffocation in air. So do you think that it might be possible that these sharks are attempting to begin or expedite a multi-million generation plan to grow legs and breathe air? The entire concept's utterly laughable because they tell us that's how the first lizards came about. It was a fish that flopped out of the sea onto the beach. And then suddenly it could breathe air, could it? And then decided to grow some legs. I mean, come on. I mean, that is just stretching credibility too far. It's just madness. Just utter madness. I'm going to go on to something which is pretty controversial now, which some of you out there may have already heard me talk about because I do talk about it a lot. And I think perhaps I've talked about it on Chris's show before, but it is an interesting thing nevertheless, and that is dinosaurs. Dinosaurs don't exist. They never existed. It's just another prop for evolution. I mean, we were told that they were allegedly all wiped out by a meteorite which fell around 65 million years ago in the Gulf of Mexico, and none survived. Not a single one, which, if I'm being honest, that always struck me as a little bit odd to say the least, especially as other reptilian species seem to survive all right. But the biggest thing for me is that dinosaur fossils, not the biggest thing maybe, but one of them, no dinosaur fossils were ever found at all until the 1850s, the very early days of the evolutionary theory. And surprisingly enough, both things happened almost simultaneously. So we had the evolutionary theory, and then all of a sudden, dinosaur fossils were popping up everywhere. And yet no culture in known human history had ever found a dinosaur fossil before that period. This is fact. This is not me making stuff up. In addition, all dinosaur skeletons in museums are actually admitted to be fakes. All the real bones, they say, are kept under lock and key in places like the basement of the British Museum and the Smithsonian Institute, with only certain privileged paleontologists allowed to view them. Well, how convenient. Now, we know that these skeletons are fakes because the museums actually admit that they are. They say that they are replicas of the originals, which are, as I say, they're kept under lock and key. You know, it's all very convenient. We know that there is a factory in China whose name escapes me. It's just coming back to me. The Zigong Dino something or other company, which has got a very interesting website which you can visit on the internet, and it actually admits that this is the world's biggest supplier of dinosaur fossils to all the major natural history museums around the world. You know, it's just all very, very convenient. You know, the dinosaur classification, the species classification dinosaurs, which means giant lizards, was first defined in the mid 19th century by the Royal Society, by a member of the Royal Society. And anyone who's heard me talk about the Royal Society will know that they are the controllers of science, and they decree what science we're allowed to know and what is taboo. So that raises an immediate red flag. I mean, the Royal Society is utterly populated from floor to ceiling with Freemasons. It's absolutely a Freemasonic organization. And the guy who actually proposed this new species of giant lizards was a guy called Richard Owen, who was a senior Freemason. But it was nothing but pure speculation on his part. I mean, not a single dinosaur fossil at that point had ever been discovered. So where did he get this crazy idea from it? I mean, doesn't that fact in itself not strike as all as a little odd? Well, it seems unbelievable to me anyway, but you know. Then, you know, and then around the time that Darwin was spouting his absolute nonsense to Freemasonry's delight, of course, the first dinosaur fossil was found in the Missouri River Basin in the US Midwest. Great! Proof at last, that cried all the various interests in unison. Amazing, isn't it? That no one in the entire history of the world had ever discovered a dinosaur fossil until very shortly after the first creatures were first described. It's just absolutely incredible. But people don't scratch beyond the surface of any of this at all. You know, it's just it's crazy. I mean, why were there no discoveries by Native Americans in all the previous centuries when they roamed the American continents? There is no belief in dinosaurs in their religions or traditions or cultures. And, you know, for that matter, why were there no discoveries anywhere in the world prior to the 19th century? You know, no culture in the world had ever found a dinosaur fossil. Not a single dinosaur bone. And then suddenly dinosaur fossils and relics were appearing everywhere as if by magic. You know, there are no ancient tribal belief systems, written or verbal, passed down the generations of anything resembling these giant lizards. You know, all North and South America, Asia, Africa, Europe, all have copious deposits of dinosaur fossils, we're told. So it's very strange, you know, because these places had all been inhabited for many thousands of years, and they've been well explored by geologists and paleontologists prior to the mid-19th century, and yet they'd never found anything. Why had no dinosaur fossils ever been found before the actual idea of dinosaurs was first dreamed up? And, you know, maybe this will answer that question. Alleged dinosaur bones and eggs sell for a lot of money. Millions. You know, an alleged T-Rex bone recently sold for $12 million. It's a profitable business. You know, museums are in the business of producing displays that are popular and appealing, and film producers and the media produce all this material to sell, their products and stay in business. And the mainstream media loves to hype all these alleged dinosaur finds. It's just another prop for evolution. So yeah, it's if you want to stop me there for a few minutes, I'm going to chat again.
We've had some. Deb's been looking through chat here, and people very politely disagreeing, which is perfectly okay. That's okay. This is what the show's all about. And she kindly put some. There's Dragon Noir, which I can't pronounce. And he said, what was it? Because you showed it up earlier. No, John, there were fossils found earlier. The Chinese called them dragons. So that's an interesting,
Not according to my research. I mean, I stand to be corrected, but, I have researched this thoroughly, and, I've not seen anything that would convince me that that is the case. But, I'm not saying you're wrong, at all, but I can only speak as I find them.
And also, who put that the Chinese called them dragons? You see, it's a bit like the let's face it, all three of us know that mankind didn't go to the moon in a tin can in 1969. So what they're doing now, they're saying, but we saw UFOs whilst going there, which makes it a little bit more interesting and pushes people off the.
Yeah, it's a kind of a circular logic, isn't it? In a sense, yeah.
You kind of push things. Sorry, but again, thank you very much for questioning the agenda or what we're. This is what the show's about. We question things.
Yorkshire Rose made a good point.
Yeah.
I do believe that any bones found are megafauna which died out at a global catastrophic event such as worldwide flood, volcanic eruptions.
Yeah, I can subscribe to that view. Absolutely, yeah.
And then Dan Max saying we had a vapor canopy at one point, perfect conditions for giant everything. The Great Flood was its collapse. Interested. Archaic's channel on YouTube.
That's interesting. Also, it's like oil. They say it's a fossil fuel. No, it's not a fossil fuel. It's carbon. Because if it was actually came from rotting trees and dinosaur bones and the bloke down the road, his rotting dog that he buried, we'd have run it in 1946, apparently. So it's carbon that actually the Earth creates. Like we, cut ourselves. We've got blood and that, And V. McCrin, hello, V. And Mongolians found big bones and called them dragons.
I don't dispute that big bones have been found. There's absolutely no dispute that big bones are found. But whether they were giant lizards and dinosaurs that died as a result of a cataclysmic event such as a meteor. I mean, I don't even believe in bloody meteorites anyway. So, the whole thing to me is just utter nonsense. And I noticed that Dragon Noir says my research is wrong. Well, what about your research being wrong, perhaps? Just a question. It's all very well accusing me of my research being wrong, but I don't see any proof of that statement. How old do I believe that the universe is? I have absolutely no idea, and what is more, neither does anyone else.
No, I don't know.
Well, if it's probably going off the course a little bit, there's a Russian chap. Unfortunately, all his lectures are in Russian with subtitles, so it's a bit difficult to read it all. I can't think of his name, but again, I'm sure in chat they will come up with it. Who believes that they've got? Well, there's two things. Number one, this year is not 2022; it is 1722, because when they changed the calendars over in the Middle Ages, they made a balls up, and we lost 300 years. Not literally lost 300 years. And the reason why I've said this before is because with the cathedrals and that, they got up to a certain standard of building these cathedrals. They stagnated for 300 years and then started where they finished off 300 years prior. No, it doesn't work like that. And German researchers have looked into it and they found they made a mistake, and we've kept the mistake going. So it's really 1722 that we're in at the moment. And there's a Russian mathematician that's looked into things, and he believes that carbon dating is a load of, excuse my language, bollocks, and he reckons that the pyramids were built in the 14th century. So, and Sebastian has just said something. The man who invented dinosaurs is on YouTube. We'll look that up later on. So this is all interesting. But,
there's absolutely no question in my mind whatsoever.
But your questions are all very polite. Thank you very much for questioning, John. And that this is what, again, it's interesting. It is Buddha apparently said it is folly to try to use the mind to fathom the beginning of beginningless time. That's interesting.
Good quote.
Yes. I like what Dragon Niall, which I can't pronounce. Noir. Yeah. The certain word, I don't know what it is. I think I got the wrong.
Pay attention in French, what you should have done.
Yes, they're fake fossils, just like there are fake handbags, fake clothes, but that doesn't diminish the real ones. So, I mean, let's face it. This is a real Rolex watch, isn't it? Made by Casio.
That is actually.
It doesn't mean it's made by Rolex, does it? You know, this is
1670s, John, Chris.
Yeah.
Sorry, what?
Yes.
No, it was all right. So it was showing his Casio watch. I said, "Is that from the 1670s?"
But
very good.
It's very
subtle.
Cryoke, hello. Says dragons are in the Bible, the book of Job. Fe. That's interesting. There may have been dragons.
Never read it. So, yeah.
But what do you think about it? The Chinese have dragons in Welsh mythology as well. Might have been an animal that died out that was around. I mean, there are animals. Look at the Tasmanian tiger. That was around the 1930s, and there's still sightings of it, even though they believe it became extinct.
Yeah.
But,
Right.
So there may well have been dragons around,
So yeah, obviously we've got people who agree with the principle of dinosaurs, which is fair enough. But,
yes.
We don't know. We weren't here.
And I've spent a lot of time investigating and researching this. So, I feel perfectly justified in putting forward this argument. And just let me, if I carry on for a little bit longer, dinosaurs. Again, I realise this become an emotive topic, but dinosaurs, when you think about it, they're always presented to the public using these colourful, artistic reconstructions, drawings, models, these skeletons in museums, as we say, cartoons, movies, toys, games. From this is fact that from the assigning and arrangement of bones in each species to the impossible to discern soft tissue, skin, eyes, noses, colour, hairiness, texture, just like many of the supposed ape-man species, all dinosaur reconstructions are 100% fictional fabrications that have been created by invested and inventive evolutionists. They purposely promote dinosaurs to children in the media to condition their young, impressionable minds into believing their deceptive, cold-blooded lies. There are feature-length cartoons such as Ice Age, The Land Before Time, movies such as Jurassic Park, the Jurassic Park franchise, Dinosaur Island, coupled with absolutely masses and masses of merchandise aimed at kids, colouring books, dolls, plastic toys, school textbooks, huge displays in children's museums, interactive displays. And it's all about contributing toward the imprinting of this absolute fakery onto young and still developing minds. And of course, these children grow up to be adults who've been thoroughly propagandized by all this lifetime of false information. And of course, it makes them believe that it's absolutely impossible that they were ever lied to on such a grand scale, just as some of the listeners out there have been deceived in exactly the same way, in my view. The National Geographic and the Ice Age movies were produced by the Freemason Rupert Murdoch's News Corporation and 20th Century Fox. It's a Masonic production company. Universal Studios created Jurassic Park and The Land Before Time. They're owned by Comcast, whose main shareholders are all senior Freemasons and Illuminati. JP Morgan and the Rothschilds Discovery Channel regularly features many dinosaur documentaries, and it's also financially backed by the Rothschilds. Those facts alone, to me, speak massive volumes. And, you know, the reason for it is because dinosaurs are being touted as a kind of missing link to the evolution of birds. Here's a quote by a Smithsonian Institute scientist called Dr. Storrs Olson, and I believe this is highly significant. He said, and I quote, "The idea of feathered dinosaurs and the theropod origin of birds is being actively promulgated by a cadre of zealous scientists acting in concert with certain editors at Nature and National Geographic magazines, who themselves have become outspoken and highly biased proselytizers of the faith. Truth and careful scientific weighing of evidence are being among the first casualties in their program, which is now fast becoming one of the grander scientific hoaxes of our age." And that is from a Smithsonian Institute scientist, no less. You know, I mean, the paleontologists reconstruct entire species of these alleged ancient animals from a few fossilized teeth or bones without serious questions being asked. Why have so many dinosaur discoveries turned out to be hoaxes? And believe me, there are thousands of those, absolutely thousands. Why are all these alleged authentic dinosaur fossils kept under tight control and behind securely locked doors, well away from the inquiring eyes of any independent analysts? Because they are. No one without authority is allowed to even look at them, let alone touch them or analyze them. You know, why has erosion and weathering not destroyed all these supposed footprints and fossils that are allegedly tens, if not hundreds of millions of years old? You know, it's just the whole thing. You know, there's so many questions that need to be answered before anyone in even partial possession of their senses should consider the existence of dinosaurs, in my opinion, as anything but a convenient evolutionist myth. You know, I believe that the dinosaur industry, and it is an industry, it's a multi-trillion-dollar industry, should be investigated and questions need to be asked. I am absolutely unaware of any evidence or reason for absolutely believing dinosaurs ever were alive on Earth. The possibility exists that the concept of prehistoric living dinosaurs has been a total fabrication of 19th and 20th century people possibly pursuing an evolutionary and anti-Bible, anti-Christian agenda. Questioning what is being told instead, in my view, is a much better choice rather than blindly believing the dinosaur story. So,
well,
you know,
chip in here. For no reason, I've changed places with Deb. I'm sorry about that. I don't know what's happened. Do you notice there's some weird things going on? So,
a rose between two thorns now, Chris.
I moved a bit closer to
between two lines.
Yeah, so I'm sorry about that. It's not intentional, but it's interesting what you're saying, because there's another theory, and that is I often look at Professor Edward Dutton, the jolly heretic. I don't agree with all that he says, and it's like most things, but and it appears that again, I've mentioned this on previous programs, that people are being born before the 20th century. Sorry, before the Industrial Revolution. Nature kind of got rid of the mutants, so you only had the fittest surviving and the brainiest surviving, and then suddenly the Industrial Revolution comes along, people got more cleaner, people to survive childbirth, and you had this range of mutants coming along that shall we say cannot process logic. And it seems strange that we had the birth of communism in the mid-Victorian times, which I believe is a form of a mental problem, And then you've got the birth of Darwinism, which is a kind of mutant theory in many ways. And I don't want to sound like Dawkins in saying that, because we could be wrong, but there's some interesting stuff in chat here, which Salaway has said dragons would have come from generational memory folklore. Dragon in the Bible is referring to King Herod. Now that is interesting. I don't know what KJV stands for.
King James Version.
Yes.
Oh, King James Version. Sorry about that. And also the chap I was thinking of, and thanks to Kath Holdsworth. Hello, Kath. It's nice to see you back. And Tony Fomenko, genius.
Anatoly, yeah.
Absolute genius. I'm not sure if he can speak English, but most of his lectures are in Russian. You have to read the subtitles, but he is, and a genius. But that is very, very, very interesting. And when you look at it,
I've just got another couple minutes to go, Chris.
Certainly, and I'll try and sort out what the bloody hell's happening with this, where I keep changing positions on the screen.
I just wanted to kind of, I just wanted to conclude, just continue really, and just conclude, what I believe about, I think it's absolutely safe to conclude from, the information that I've discovered anyway, that Darwinism, which is the theory of the survival of the fittest and its twin sister, if you like, the theory of evolution, together with the official versions of paleontology and archaeology, such as they're practiced, are pseudosciences. In fact, I believe that they're actually surreptitious tools for the mind control of the masses. Their main purpose is to cut us off from the roots of the true history of humanity and promote a simplistic, naturalistic, and more importantly, in my view, mechanistic view of life as we know it being merely survival of the fittest. It's all about making us feel that we are nothing. We are just a tiny little speck of nothingness in a vast, unending universe. And, in my view, the theory of evolution promotes that view in conjunction with the Big Bang Theory and the globe Earth paradigm as well. Those three things taken together are what I call the three pillars of fake science, and they alone deny us our spiritual power. They make us, into, as I say, this tiny speck of nothingness. There is a chance, random, cosmic accident. So therefore, we are just absolutely nothing. It takes away our spiritual power. We are very powerful spiritual beings. I absolutely believe that. But all this stuff that we've been talking about for the last hour and a bit denies that privilege of being this wonderful spiritual, being that we really are. It's taking away our power, because that's what they need to do to control us. They're terrified of us, and this is why they do it. And it all makes perfect sense to me. I may not have been very logical the way I've explained it, but I'm a writer really. I'm not a speaker. I mean, I do speak, but I can put my views across a lot more convincingly in writing than I can by talking. But I do my best, and really, that's kind of all I have to say.
Well, actually, don't put yourself down. That you are a brilliant speaker, and there's some
writer, that's for sure.
very, very interesting ideas here. And Dragon Noir, which I can't bloody pronounce, Noir, who's very politely disagreeing, which is perfectly okay. He's very polite about it. What is the true roots of humanity, John?
We were created by something. That's my view. I mean, I'm not saying that I absolutely know this. I wouldn't presume to tell anybody that I absolutely believe that to be true. It is just a kind of it is a belief, but I would never impose it on anybody, is what I'm saying. That I just believe that we were created. I don't believe in evolution at all in any way, shape, or form. And everything that I've found out about it over the last 20 years, absolutely leads me to believe that it's the biggest pile of Freemasonic and Royal Society nonsense, as I said a few minutes ago, designed to put us off the track and make us believe that we're nothing. We're just a tiny, random speck of cosmic nothingness because it takes away our power.
And probably the roots go back to wink, wink, nod, nod, nudge, nudge, Jehovah's Witnesses. Possibly, allegedly.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe, but we're not really talking about Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, Emin, hello, Emin. Nice to see you back. Darwinism, this is an interesting thought. Darwinism is rubbish, but I think evolution of some kind happened. I can't see any reason to think the Earth is flat. Well, that's your view. I think we adapt. I think there's adaptation. I mean, I work with an Indian chap whose hands were slightly curved inwards, where his ancestors scooped up water. And we were talking about it one lunch hour. And he said, yeah, he says, you notice a lot of Indians have got very sort of like bowl-like, sort of spoon-like hands. We do adapt. There's no ifs and buts about that. We do adapt. But if he's right there, but that is, I mean, you put it over perfectly. Now it says here, Vimacron, I agree with John's brood thesis, if not with all his views.
Broad thesis.
Broad thesis.
I don't believe me. I'm not here to decry anybody's beliefs. I'm just telling you mine, and your choice whether or not you believe in them. Yeah. It's wouldn't do if we all thought exactly the same things.
Yeah.
Well, Sean Hamer.
That about sums it up, Sean. Yeah, well said, mate.
It's all
the truth
lies.
Is it's all lies. Yeah, that's very profound, isn't it? Yeah, it's great.
Well, I'll give you a perfect example. When I was a kid at school, and same with you, John, probably the same with you, Deb, the teacher would walk in and say, "Who built Stonehenge?" And you put your hand up and you say, "It's the Druids, miss or sir." Very good, yes.
I thought it was McAlpines.
McAlpines, yes. But they found out that the Druids didn't build Stonehenge. They used it about 2,000 years after it was built. So that's bullshit. And again, it's all what I think what it is. People have a theory, they write it down. And then to be a so-called academic, you just got to memorize what the other silly sods have written. So, I mean, let's face it. If some academic wrote that the tooth fairy exists, and he definitely, they've done scientific study, and Professor Plonk with his bow tie has found out that the tooth fairy does exist, you'd have loads and loads and loads of technical literature coming out about how they proved that the tooth fairy exists. So,
well, it's Father Christmas and the tooth fairy.
I know, it's terrible.
I need to lie down.
That's right. It's getting a bit too much, isn't it? Now, this is Sebastian. He said here, I don't believe in dinosaurs. I used to. Or same here. Not anymore. If someone wants to believe, then do so. That's what I'm exactly the same. But now we got here. What's this? Completely agree, John. Meant to degrade and contract us. That's right. I mean, the fact is, they want us to believe that we're like a grain of sand in the desert and are meaningless. That's what they've been doing all the time, kind of degrading us as if we are scum. It's psychologically wearing us down. If that were true, why would they work so hard to keep us down? Spot on, Fiona. Death by 1,000 paper cuts. Power to us. And well said, I agree with what Mark Wilson says. True roots of humanity are love and empathy, and we're ruled by psychopaths. And when you look at it like that, everything they do is to demean us now, isn't it?
Yeah.
They want us to eat insects now, and they're talking about once upon a time, the thought of cremating dead people would have been horrendous. It was only in India they did that.
Yeah.
They buried people. Now they're talking about some idea where they kind of wash you away with high blasts of water or something.
Right.
Yeah, and you go down the sewer system. Yeah, that's what they're talking about. I mean, how vile can you get? That's
gross.
You know, even a Pierpoint who hung people, he believed that you should treat the dead body with ultimate respect, and he went ballistic when they didn't have enough coffins for the Germans that he was hanging after the war to put them in, and he was very respectful, even though he was a hangman.
Yeah.
And he said you should treat the body with respect and that. Yeah, and but that's quite interesting. That we've got here. Now Salaway says
it's an opinion.
Fair enough. Yes, I agree. Yes, that's it. Yes. Now there's a heck of a lot in chat, isn't there?
There is.
It's all going proved pretty controversial, that's for sure.
Well, I don't know if you see if you're on BitShoot, but the introduction photograph for this show was a picture of David Attenborough with, I think it was his cousin, wasn't it? A chimp. Yeah. I don't know which one was more intelligent, or whether it's his wife. I don't know. Yes, but do you remember that? So when David Attenborough was with those gorillas,
yeah,
I got a feeling they would tranquilise those gorillas, but he wasn't the first to sit with gorillas. It was Johnny Morris that did. He sat with a gorilla with his baby, which was bloody dangerous.
Yeah.
Because a mother is protective of a baby, and the gorilla handed the baby over to Johnny Morris.
Yeah. What's that?
Yes. Now we got here Emin here. Oh, hang on, what's it? Got Emin. It's got here. I wish supporters and critics of Darwinism alike wouldn't conflate it with common descent. You might think they're both true, or you might think they're both false, but they're not the same thing.
Interesting, Emin. Yeah.
Now we got Joe here, Joe Weeks. How about the ones that have been found, like baby mammoths?
Mammoths are not dinosaurs, Joe.
No, they were around up to about.
They're elephant. They're part of the elephant family, aren't they? Yeah.
Yes.
So they wouldn't have needed the hair as the earth got warmer. They wouldn't have needed the hair, so the hair fell off, leaving bald dinosaurs, not dinosaurs, elephants.
Yeah.
Well, some people think that mammoths were around up to 400 years ago in some remote parts of the world.
So, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that mammoths existed. Yeah.
No. Our Sebastian saying dead bodies hydroblasted in California can be sprayed on crops, it's alleged.
Oh.
That's grim. That's great. Silent Green all over again.
Anyone from McDonald's?
Grim.
Oh,
Silent Green is people.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's this? Now, what's this? What's this?
Pachyderms.
Yeah. Oh, I like this one. Shattenborough. Sure. I'll tell you what gets me about Attenborough. He's another one that speaks a bit like who's that bloody broadcaster? Jeremy Vile. They've got that same similar voice. They're sort of pushing against the tide. I've got to get my bias bullshit over to you, and all this crap.
That's how I narrate my life. I'm going in the garden now.
Yes, here he is. Yeah. Do you remember Zoo Time? Zoo Time. There's always shoving their
Desmond Morris.
Yes, right. They're always shoving their finger up an animal's ass.
Yeah. Not really sure what all that was about. Yeah, pachyderm elephants. Yeah.
Yes, bit of
Never heard of it before.
Bestiality, I think, going on there. Hello, children. This week we're covering bestiality.
Welcome.
Dragon.
Who went Wrangel Island?
Existed on Wrangel Island up to 3,000 years ago.
I want to go to Wrangel Island. Where is this?
Where is it?
I don't know. I have to go exploring that.
Is it near Bognor?
Yeah. It's just down from Southend-on-Sea.
Now we got here. Social Darwinism is the form of population reduction going to bite them in the arse.
Mm.
Now this is interesting. V. McCrinnan says, what's that? Pachydermus, the elephant.
Pachyderms.
Pachyderms,
Which is the generic term for elephants. Yeah.
I did not know that. I've completely learned something there.
That's where Wrangel Island is, Siberia.
Is it? I don't think I'll be going out on the holidays then, you know.
No. Mind you, all the fighting would warm you up, all that wrangling.
Oh, yes. Hang on, where was it? Mark Wilson said, at inboard, travel 100 times around the Earth on a jet to save the planet.
Along with his mates Al Gore and Greta Thunberg.
Oh, Christ.
Yeah.
I haven't seen much of Greta Fartberg recently. What's
No,
that?
she kept a gobshot a bit, hasn't she?
What's this? If there's a grant involved, science will prove anything you want. Where's David Jake? We haven't seen it for a long time, have we?
Spot on, Paul. Well said, mate.
That is absolutely spot on.
All to do with
99% of scientists agree with whoever's funding them, don't they?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, let's face it. If somebody came up and handed you thousands of pounds worth and thousands of pounds and said, "Could you just say this on a live stream?" Yeah, I will. Yeah.
That's
Give
right.
them the money.
Yeah. Well, let's face it. When you're a freelance bloke, you got your principles. How much?
Yeah.
This was it. If I didn't do it, someone else would.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, let's have a look at that. Richard's saying, I recommend a video that dropped 9 days ago on the Canon Missing Project YouTube channel titled Appetite for Destruction, America on Course. Some frightening truths, in my opinion, from David Paulides there. David Paulides is the one that covers all the missing people in America.
Where they find a leg and it's a foot, isn't it? They keep finding a foot. It's always
no,
next to
that's not him. He looks into the people that just completely vanish off the face of the earth.
There's some people like Tony Blair that you wish would vanish off the face of the earth.
There's a lot of people. I have a list of people who wish to vanish off the earth.
Rishi Sunak or something, which is...
No, I don't even watch the news anymore, so I don't even know what's going on.
Now, I think we better not read this one out, but V. McCrone says, I agree with you, mate, yes.
Yeah.
XR is controlled opposition.
Yeah. But you can see the reason I can't really
populated by useful idiots.
Yes.
That's right. No, I'm not. I googled that elf shop you advertise, not expecting it to exit. No, it's not. It's still.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. I'm going to be there tomorrow. But it's about the only time I'm not going to go in there. I'm not going to have any pins stuck in me. We're going to talk about the radio show.
Yeah.
What's this? Oh, hang on a minute. We promoted your book, John. I've got an advert for that, haven't we? Ooh. Where is it? Yeah, do you remember that? Hang on, let's have a look.
In there somewhere.
It's got to be here somewhere. We got here. Bloody hell, where is it? Here it is. An opinion can only be formed by looking at the evidence. Nowadays, information is overwhelmingly corrupted by corporate and agenda interests that often relies upon mass ignorance to survive. John Hamer is a best-selling author who cuts through the jungle of lies to bring you thoroughly researched information. His books are obtainable from his website, allthews.falsificationofhistory.co.uk, or Amazon, or if you wish to contact him, he can be contacted on jch120752@gmail.com. Thank you. Yes, nothing like a posh.
Just a slight correction there, Chris. You can't actually buy my books on my website, unfortunately. It's not interactive. You can only buy them or directly from myself by emailing me.
There you go.
Very good.
And the email address is, there we go.
There it is. Thanks. Good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So get your old books here, and you're also tied up all week, aren't you? On our other show, aren't you? I believe.
I've got 6 podcasts this week. Yeah, I had 6 last week as well.
And
right, Dragon. To know.
It depends what you're interested in, mate. I mean, falsification of science is kind of what we've been talking about tonight. That's got all the stuff in that I've been discussing tonight in much greater and better detail with a lot more evidence than I can ever do on a 1 hour and a bit podcast.
Yeah.
The falsification of history is a great kind of starter book for anybody who's new to the truth world. And then I've got books on other topics such as, I've got JFK, a very British coup, which is a different slant on the JFK assassination. I've got 2 books on the Titanic, the real truth about what happened with the Titanic. Behind the Curtain is a massive tome about that thick in 2 volumes, which talks about how the banking industry creates money out of thin air and why and how it uses the money that it creates to control the world through various different proxies, such as Freemasonry and the Illuminati and all this. And then the latest one, Welcome to the Masquerade, which is, I can't say too much about that because it will go against YouTube guidelines and probably get Chris shut down, but it's about what's been going on for the last 2 and a bit years and all the background information to that. So, yeah. Don't think I missed any out there.
excellent.
No. There's 8 altogether. So.
I'll tell you something. John and Shannon are brilliant at English because my English grammar, as I said, I used to sleep during the English classes when I was at school, and it does show, doesn't it? Now, also, we got a call out, and we've got a call out here. Where is it now? I don't think he wants me to do this, but happy birthday, belated birthday, John. So,
how did you know? Ha 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 ha.
And I've sorted it out. You're in the middle now, Deb. Because I think you ladies should always be in the middle. I'm sorry about that. I don't know, it's a bit of a bit of chocolate.
It's fine.
Now, there's an interesting one here from Sean Hamer. Awesome info on Brett Norman's YT channel. Series Science is the New Religion and Satanic Media Agenda. Both are rich sources of info over a 50 hours on Bowie's occult habits. I always thought that bloke was a bit strange, actually. I like some of his music. Yeah, his music was quite nice, wasn't it?
I like some of his songs.
Yes, but what on earth is this, Sebastian? Snake Plissken has more hair than me. What's that?
No idea. In the comments, I had no idea.
No idea. And we got Kryoki, was it? Kryoki says, go to YouTuber Kent Hovid. He know a lot about creation versus evolution. Anyways, bye-bye. Oh,
bye-bye.
No, ta-ta.
Bye-bye.
Ta-ta. Nice knowing you.
Thanks for coming. You've been a right laugh.
Hey, thanks for coming then, But now I've got here Richard on Solent. Hi, John. I've come to the party late. Lines and parents. Note from parents, please. But I think you've been very interesting and fun when I've seen you elsewhere. Looking forward to watching back this whole video tonight.
Thank you, Richard. That's very kind of you. And for anyone else who's not aware, if you go to my website, falsificationofhistory.co.uk, and click on podcasts and interviews, there are over 100 podcasts on there and interviews with me. If you're interested in hearing the crap that I spout, that's fine.
I do.
Well, but as I've often said, nobody see, when we were talking about bullshit last week, it's the only subject you can show off about without showing. Nobody bullshits quite like the way I do. Actually, it's all well researched, and you can, and also with other falsifications, if you go onto falconhallradio.com and go into the archive section, there are other falsifications, such as I did a show with, thanks Deb, with the late great Robert Newman, who was a great loss, and not Robert Newman you see on the television, but he did the Mozart myth, and I think it's probably one of the best radio shows I've done with people. And he went into it. I'm not sure. I think he could speak German, and he found out that Mozart was average, and he didn't even write. His music was written by others, and he could prove it. And he went on to Classic FM, not speaking, but on one of their talks, and he's there's loads of people against him, but he stood his own because he knew what he was talking about. And he found out Mozart was a myth, and also the chap who did the planets.
Right. Holst
planets, yes. And he said, and Einstein.
Newman's take on classical music is fascinating. I mean, he presents, the classical music was just as corrupt as modern day pop music is, with all the satanic elements and stuff. Thank you, Dragon Noir. Yeah, that's very kind of you to say so. I appreciate that.
That's nice.
Yeah, all my stuff is on my website if you want to listen to the podcast. Well, I know it's all very controversial, and I know people are bound to disagree with what I say because, these are just my views that I've gleaned over 25 years of research, and I have uncovered a lot of stuff, and it's, as I said, it's all interlocked. And once you can actually see that bigger picture, and you can actually put those pieces in place, the general picture becomes a lot clearer, and that enables you to put other pieces in place. So a lot of what I talk about is a kind of an extrapolation of stuff that I already researched and I already know about. It just kind of fits like a glove, so you could argue that that's kind of an unscientific way of approaching it, but it is sense. But in another way, it's also a very effective way of doing it, because the circumstantial evidence sometimes is overwhelming. You don't even need any scientific evidence. The circumstantial evidence, which, by the way, is perfectly acceptable in court, is overwhelming. That's kind of how I base my research and the way I work.
Yeah.
Well, if you go on to
thank you, Dragon.
And you go into the radio archive, you'll be able to hear it, and it's actually on the actual servers of my website servers, and I think you'll enjoy it. And it was a great loss when Robert Newman passed on. It really was. He was a great mate, and But we got Paul Johnson. Morning all is in New Zealand. There we go. There we are. We also got some viewers from Denmark as well, which is pretty good. Now, this is John. I have no doubt that you're onto something. That's very polite. That's very good. Now we've got here another one. We've already come up with that one, have I? No, hang on. What have we done? I'm getting in a bit of a mucking fuddle there.
It's me not clicking on the.
Yeah, that's interesting. I love classical music and often laugh at the stupid stories Classic FM come up with about composers. Well, most of the composers are decomposing there, aren't they? Now we've got here. What is it? I hear Old Western Wealth is investing in East. Not backed up by real commodities. Yes, but it's not really the subject we're talking about tonight, is it? Oh, shall I talk about car maintenance now? It's a good point, though. Like I said, I do not follow.
Zen the art of motorcycle maintenance.
Yes. So turned off on him. But here we go. So that's fascinating, you know. But
there we go. There's a comment there from Sean Hamer saying, Israel, dear river. Anyway, you can read that. Real Genius channel has great info on classical music, classical painting, art, and Freemasonry. Excellent work.
That's interesting.
I couldn't even read that.
Because I'll tell you what Robert Newman did do, and that was the Einstein myth. There, right. That is really controversial. He said that Einstein.
Well, no. Einstein was a fraud, an absolute fraud. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not just me saying that. I mean, lots of serious researchers have kind of proved that. Yeah, I'm talking about proper scientists, not just non-scientists like myself. You know.
Well, he actually he looked a typical mad professor. That's why he was put into spotlight, because he actually did the part well. But apparently, he said that the theory of relativity was discovered in London in the 1870s. He could prove it. And Einstein was a plagiarist, basically. And a lot of people have said that he's a plagiarist. He wasn't that brilliant.
Well, it was rather convenient for him that he worked at the patent office in, was it Vienna? So he was privy to lots of different inventions, you know, some of which got turned down and which I believe and others believe that he actually used and claimed them as his own.
Well, that's right. But it's like going back to Mozart. I love Mozart's music. Although I'm a Wagner fanatic. I'm Wagner, Beethoven and Mozart. But Robert Newman proved that his pieces couldn't have been written by him. And he actually showed a piece of music. He was actually on Red Ice Creations as well at one time, Robert Newman was. And you could see by infrared there was somebody else's signature underneath it. And they'd actually put Mozart's signature over the top of it. So
well, you know, Mozart was supposed to be a child genius, you know.
Yeah.
He wrote his first symphony at 5. And then at 5:30 he went home for his tea. Sorry.
And also, he spoke with an American accent because I've seen the film Amadeus. So you don't realise that. And did you know the Vikings spoke with a Brooklyn accent as well? Because I've seen the one with Tony Curtis. See, I know. Kirk Douglas. And they had nice hairdressers at the old Vikings. Before they went to battle, they had the old hairdressers, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, shall we wrap this up for this evening, because we're almost up to 2 hours. Thank you, John. Wow. Fantastic. Thanks, Deb, for helping out with the chat and all that. And sorry about the balls up with all the pictures going all over the place. My fault. I still haven't quite got the justice yet, but it's fantastic shows. I really enjoyed tonight, and thank you very much for coming on. Remember to subscribe. It costs nothing. It's free of charge. Shove the old thumbs up, please. You know, put the old thumbs up. That's all right. Tell others, and also if you want to buy us a cup of coffee, it's down in the old comments section.
Not in his crutch.
Please buy me, not my crutch, no. And although Reggie the dog thinks it is, and so does Connie the dog.
Horrific animals.
Actually, if you've seen Reggie, he's got Queen Anne legs. He's about 13 years old.
Oh.
Tiny dog, and he's a Heinz 57 varieties breed. And Town Crier thinks he's quite aggressive. I don't think so. I think he's quite pleasant. He sort of comes up, gives you a sort of lick, has a sniff, and walks off. You know.
Yeah.
And
he doesn't drag it out.
Sorry.
He doesn't drag it out then.
Oh no. So anyway, thank you very much. And we got here all the stars. We got here.
Yeah, thanks to everyone in chat.
And we got these coming up, Yorkshire Rose. We got Sebastian, And we got Sebastian saying good night all. We got Fiona Needham. Thank you all. Good to share some laughs too. Oh, that's good, because is it great shows always, makes Mondays oh, that's ever so kind. Yeah, it's a bit like, remember that record?
Thank you, Ruby.
If music is a food of love, prepare for indigestion. Yeah, it says here, cheers, awesome people who are immune to brainwashing and bullshit. I hope I am. We are, yes, we all are.
Thank you, Sean. All the best, mate.
And we got here, night all, enjoyed the show once again. And we've
Thank
got
you, Joe.
Thanks, John, for an interesting show. Cheers to all. Hello, V. McCrinnan. Yes,
Thank
you
you,
become
V.
a Facebook friend
Very
as
kind.
well. I don't really, I do apologise if people put questions to me in Facebook because I don't use it much. I just go there to plug the bloody show, that's all.
Yeah.
And but I've had to knock off a few friends on there because I had someone sending me what they had for breakfast, what they had for dinner, what they had for tea, and their granny's knitting, which it's very interesting.
I'll try not to do that again.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for tonight's show. Brilliant. And see you same time. If YouTube don't give us the order of the boot, I don't think they should.
Yeah.
Same time, same place next week.
Thank
Good
you
night,
very much.
all.
Remember,
good morning to those in other parts of the world.
Right? And whatever happens, have a bloody good laugh.
Yeah.
That's the best thing to do. Have a laugh.
Thanks,
That's
everyone.
it. Anyway, night.
Night.
Bye.